Hello, everyone. Grown Black Folks Talk. How this shutdown talk is really our permanent underclass wake up call. This has been an interesting month. I know that given that I'm involved with seniors and mothers and children and veterans, we anticipated this being, the people that I am around anticipated this being a problem by September. We were caught a little bit surprised that it became an issue for May, June. So that was a bit of a surprise to start with. But when you sit down and you think about all the people that this affects, particularly in the Black community, it really is something that can be existentially terrifying. Um, and I've taken my time talking about it because that's what I do. I age hot subjects. Of course, this one's going to get hotter every day that there's not a deal, but I age hot subjects because I want time to think and pray. There's a lot going on out here. We still have to deal with this individual calling for the public murking of Malika Andrews, but I've taken my time to see exactly how I'm going to go at that. Just like I took my time before I discussed Anton, Adigun, and Cynthia. I take my time, I age things. And I've taken my time on this because I had to find out regarding the shutdown threat what my personal responsibilities are as someone who's involved in the ownership of senior housing. Big deal. But as I was in prayer, and I have been about this issue for a while, because the Lord was not surprised. I remember as I was in prayer, very rarely do I hear back that immediately from the Spirit, and rarely do I share it when that does happen. But this is the answer. Based on Psalm 118, 8 and 9. It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in men. Now, put your annotations. Kevin McCarthy or Joe Biden, Republicans or Democrats, most of whom are men. These same men, the Republicans in the House who could not get themselves a speaker for less than 15 tries and had the Honorable Cheryl L. Johnson have to conduct the business of the House so that 1/3 of the federal government was being conducted and carried forward on the back of a Black woman. Same, half of these people, the same people. Okay, but it also says, just in case it was not clear that government was being talked about in this, it is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in princes. So what I heard back was I was praying about the government shutdown. Who told you that your people were supposed to be this dependent on the government? And ooh, how did we get here? How did we get here? Now we know because of the arguments that have been going on between Black men and women online that this has deep rooted issues. We can talk about Lyndon Johnson and the Great Society and whatever it was that took Black men out of the home. We have had this argument off and on for years, and this is how we end up getting here. We can take this argument all the way back to 1865, how the United States government compensated slave owners and not slaves, meaning that all the wealth that Africans in America created for white people stayed with white people. Because at that time you did not have any Asians or Latino here that it was being shared with in any significant amount. Now, since then, all the things that were built by that, the wealth has evened out somewhat. But when I say evened out, I mean from being like 99 to 100 to now, there is some that's better, but the inequality is still definitely there. And the descendants of African Americans, considering how much our ancestors put in place, are nowhere near the parity we should be at. So we can go back as far as we want, and we can argue about what happened and make people really upset. And people who have the descendants of people that benefited from this have no intention whatsoever of giving up these benefits. None. This is why the conversation, well, the majority at least, this is why the conversation about reparations is so difficult. But what we don't tend to understand is if you don't have a federal government that can pay its bills, it does not matter what kind of money you think is coming. It is not. But what do we do from here? First, we have to recognize how completely unprepared we are. See, I love conservatives talking about how, the church is going to just pick up the slack. I would love to see that on June 4th. or July the 2nd, which is the beginning of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I would love to see on July the 2nd this is not resolved. And all these wonderful white churches that are so conservative and backing these Republicans have all the veterans in town rolling up on them, talking about, you got a $40 million evidence time to put up a shut up. And yes, I have a permit for all this that I'm carrying, and I have my Second Amendment rights, and I intend for all this to be worked out. Now, y'all figure out what you're going to do. Call the police department. That's cool because y'all broke the rules and slid a whole lot of my brethren in there. Yeah, try that. I'm waiting on, and see, here's what's gonna happen with men like that. They can always claim PTSD when their own country became the enemy. Wait, let the United States drop this ball. But you know what? Let me tell you something. As a black person, I have to now talk to my pastor about what are we about to do. The black churches, what are we about to do? If I was TD Jakes, I'd be scared today because here's what's gonna happen. See, a lot of these men, we talk about the danger of black men. A third of them are felons. Well, understand that they got grandmothers who pay tithes. So what you about to do when the Crips, Bloods, and United Guerrilla family come to collect their grandmother's investment? Ain't nobody ready. Ain't nobody ready for the real work of what it's going to take care of about 100 million people if this does not work out right. Because we have put confidence in a government that does not give two dead flies about whether we live or die for too long. So first thing, recognize the situation that you're in. You know, at the moment, I don't care whether you listen to Stephanie Perry, Adelia Borashade, or Rashida Dow, and you were getting ready to leave the country and not be bothered. I don't care whether you listen to Mocha Mommy or Black Women Making Money. I'm going to talk about how you get your skills and increase your income. If you are a black man, I don't care whether you listen at the moment to Jason Black, Kim Billions, JT Automations, or Anthony O'Neill in order to figure out how to increase your income legally. But see, it's not just about you. The United States government has shown its empty hand. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said many, many years ago, the check is about to be marked insufficient funds if they can't get this worked out. And if it does not happen on June 1st, understand the size of the national debt means that we're kicking it down the road, but at some point the United States will default. I remember having read a statement when it gets up around $45 trillion. At that point, we're going to begin to have serious problems. That's an amount of debt. That's a trigger for whatever reason. I can't remember now. We're about 2/3 of the way there. So we either have to figure out how we're going to restructure it, or we are going to have to make either increase our GDP to deal with it, or we're going to have to make tremendous cuts at that time. Understand also that when parties are in control, they just go ahead and increase the debt limit without thinking about what the consequences are going to be down the road. And that means that at some point, you're going to have to come to terms with the reality that we're already facing. People are talking about AI is going to take jobs and we need universal basic income. Have fun with that. What you're going to have to do is convince these corporations that are taking the money out of society to pay for that because the United States government is not necessarily going to be stable enough to do this in the coming years. Because again, if it's a political football, generally it does get lifted. Generally, it does get lifted. Everybody wants to go back to their side and say we got some things done, but in doing that, we're not solving the problems. This is a wake-up call. This is not how I would prefer to start Memorial Day weekend, but because my dad is a veteran, a lot of those people I know are veterans, people who served our country whose benefits are in danger in about 5 days. Because I serve seniors. Now we spend a lot of time, yesterday by the time you see this, going over what we're going to do for our senior housing. We got a plan in place. We're going to take care of what we need to take care of, and our seniors are going to be okay. I'm going to make sure my parents are okay. They're good for right now. Whatever we got to do, whatever we have to move around, we'll get it moved around. But it looks like they're going to be, my dad's a veteran. He's going to be okay. He also was IOWU. He's a longshoreman. He's going to be all right. Mom's going to be all right. So the seniors that I'm concerned with directly, their plans in place for all that. But what do we do when seniors that go to our churches can't pay their bills? And they done tithe there all their lives. Now what? Are our families prepared to make up the slack? Maybe, maybe not. But there's going to be a reckoning for all these community institutions that are sitting up here taking money and are behaving just as callously as our government. See, now here's the other thing about the reckoning. the institutional reckoning. I don't know if anybody was paying attention on January 6th, but when you have a situation like that, that tells you that your country is in considerable danger than you had when they stormed the Capitol in Michigan. We have significant problems in terms of the people are losing the idea that it is worth respecting authority. And if government houses can be attacked, so can churches, so can community organizations, and obviously, so can people. We're getting to an extremely dangerous moment. All this arguing and going back and forth online that we are doing about things that are insignificant. This is your wake up call. See, for some of us, COVID was apparently not enough. If everything in your life that you counted on disappeared in terms of income, what would you do next? Do you have savings? Do you have plans? Do you have this? Do you have that? If the United States dollar really begins to devalue, if we default, do you have anything beside money in the bank? Do you have skills that you can barter with? Do you have networks and relationships with people that are not going to become marauders? See, this is the other reason why Stephanie and Adelia and Rashida are telling you something of very great importance. Some of you want to have a backup plan in order to be able to get out of the country, potentially. Some of you need to have a backup plan to get out of your neighborhood. If you live in a neighborhood where looting takes place every time something goes down, that ought to tell you need to have a plan to get away from there. Some of you may need to move on. Some of you may need to look at your discretionary spending. Some of you, and a lot of us as Black women, we're very interested now in getting the consumer tokens of the fact that we are arriving in America and sitting up there talking about what Black men can't afford it because they're just bus drivers. No, you're missing the whole point. We don't have an economy. So because we don't have an economy, if the United States were to default and remain in default for a significant period of time, every single mother with children who did not get what she was supposed to get, every single senior citizen relative in your family, every single aging veteran in your family is going to be looking at you. And the things you have in your closet are not going to do anything for that because you're going to sell it to who? Now, Black men have their consumer goods as well, but I know who most of my audience is. Consumerism will not prepare you for times like this. Because the challenge is we, the descendants of the hardest working people on the planet for at least the last 600 years, the wealth that we should have participated in was denied us entirely. But in the 150 years since, we've created a lot more. Where is it? A lot of it went to our consumer dollar. Particularly in the last 60 years, it was not circulated among people so that we would have an economy, which means that if the United States economy bottoms out, again, this is your wake up call. The train, well, shall we say the plane to the permanent underclass is loading. That thing does not have a tail. It does not have two wings. It is to be loaded up, to be launched out into crash, and it is loading right now. It may deliver a great bunch of us to the permanent underclass as soon as next week. That's how close to the line we are. Now, I'm not saying this to you to be scared. It's too close to all that. I'm saying you got 5 days. Don't run around panicking. Call your representatives. Pray. Put some money together. Have a plan. At the least, if you have not vetted your associates, have a plan. Who you think you can do some work with if things are not where they need to be. Go buy some extra bulk food if you need to do that, just in case. Now, of course, if none of this happens, I know most people are going to go right back to their habits, but I'm telling you, this is a wake up call. The decisions that you make when you have opportunities like this, the set of your mind to, okay, we got a plan for better than what we have now. These wake up calls do not need to be overlooked. Many of us went through COVID, discovered skills, discovered opportunities that have changed our lives forever. Other people went through COVID just waiting for things to go back to where they were. But if you remember, 2019 for most people was completely unsustainable. And now we're just reverting. And now here we have this. This video is not intended to scare you. And like I said, I hate to start a holiday weekend with this level of grimness, but we just don't have time and luxury to sit up and act like what's happening is not happening. Take this potential shutdown. Now, they may end up working it out by June 1st, and they may end up working it out by June 3rd or June 5th or June 15th or June 18th or June 20th. They may end up working this out beforehand. They may work through Memorial Day and get some things worked out. They may not. But the day will come, whether it comes for the United States government in our lifetime or not. If you do not understand that the government is not going to make good plans that involve keeping you safe and secure by now, then you're not paying attention. And my job is to get here and help you to pay attention. Don't just be mad. Don't just be scared. Understand what you were looking at. As I am always saying, and I'm not just trying to bark at you. Get your life together. Get your life together. Because no one is coming to save you. And as African Americans, we've allowed ourselves in the last 60 years to get entirely too dependent on government. And this is why we will be in the worst situation. And understand that both Joe Biden and Kevin McCarthy do not give two dead flies when the plan is for us to be the permanent underclass anyway. If a default helps to push us in, whoop-de-doo. If you don't want that, then you got to make different decisions. And with that, I leave you making different decisions going into the weekend. I may have another video, depending on whether I can get out and walk today or not. By the time you see this will be today. May have another video. Hopefully be able to lighten it up. We'll see. There's a lot of, unfortunately, grim. I don't want to say grim, but there's a lot of things on the table we can discuss. Like I said, I still got to deal with the subtleties of how prominent black men are calling for public murderings of black women. That's a grim subject. There is Mrs. Denia Jackson telling her story. I'm aging that for a reason. Then there's more things going on. But for today, I want to just get, for this video, don't let the shutdown pass you by without you realizing, okay, it's time to wake up now. There's going to be some channels that you might want to listen to start getting better ideas, to start filling your mind with people who are positive, the things you can do with your life that are different than worried about what everybody else is doing. You need to be concerned about how you get ready for the tough economic times that are coming. All this arguing back and forth, look, black men are not going to solve black women's problems. That's established because remember, they were taken out the home in the time of our parents and grandparents. That's done. And black men, just understand, women were not put here to solve your problems. We are supposed to, you're supposed to know what your stewardship is, and then we are your first assistant. But if you don't know what your stewardship is, you don't get an assistant. Go back and read Genesis 1 and 2 again. Nope, you got to be on top of your stewardship. And if the community it looks in any position, we know that is not happening in general. There are some exceptions to the rule, obviously. We're about to find out how many good black men there are if everything gets shut down. We're going to find out real quick. And some black men have been sitting up online for a long time talking, we can't wait for this to happen. No. With black men killing black men 25 times a day, we're going to find out if that number is correct. Nobody wants, this is not going to be good for anybody, but we're going to see who has it together and who doesn't. If there's a shutdown, about 3 weeks, we're going to know the answer to this. All the stuff that people have been advising us to do about this, that, and the third, and all this pointing fingers, give it about 3 weeks. Prison industry's gonna boom if this doesn't get resolved. Remember, I told y'all about a year ago that you had about a year's time because of all this IRS stuff that people were doing with the stimulus and everything, that the IRS was gonna come start snatching people up. You had about a year's time to figure out what you're gonna do with your life. Well, this isn't quite the same issue, but I said that about a year ago. Please take heed, get your life together, and have a good weekend. If I don't do another video, have a good weekend. And if I do, I'll see you later. All right, bye.